So as I was saying, not only are we going to see a rise in institutionalisation from abandoned buildings being reopened, but you can expect to see a rise in artists because, according to the Bible, which most people do or don't believe, the meek will inherit the earth. That means patients, the artists, the angels, the orphans, the outcasts. And because you've asked me to explain what I can do, I'm only really touching the surface because I do believe Jesus is out there somewhere, thoroughly entertained or lonely or something, a complete stranger to most people. And because I live my life with responsibilities, I have read enough books on mostly forbidden works, on things like mysticism and gypsy parlor tricks and the ways of the Romanis. So, as I see, knowledge is power. And because of running an orphanage and not having any legal support from my parents, I basically can't get married, so that ship is out. And a lot of people find themselves in this situation, so you can be your own husband by doing things like possessing an object such as artwork. You can do things like talk telepathically the way animals do, by sending signals from your thoughts to somebody else's thoughts. You can do things like paint and spirit through astral projection and come up with a masterpiece. You can do things like reincarnate as a child. You can do things like buy a sacred book and study all the powers of the gods of Egypt. You can do things like cast people away. If they're bothering you, you can do things like draw it on parchment paper, and if you're blindfolded, it'll appear as if it really was there. You can do things like read tarot cards, which predict the future, the most likely path your situation will take. You can do things like look at the stars and recognize a planet. You can do things like write a book, a bestseller. If you've read enough books, you can do things like numerology or palmistry. It's actually all on Google, and it's all really fascinating because palmistry is things like the lines on your hands and what they mean and what they represent. You can do things like run an orphanage. If you have a house that's furnished with a backyard, you call this and say, I want to be a foster parent, and it's another government agency. There's so much. There's just so much. You can pray to look like somebody else. You can pray for anything your heart desires. You can know psychic therapies, you can know psychic self-defense, you can know there's so much more. I mean, some people that are enlightened, such as the Buddhist king, probably could create a planet. Yeah. What it was an arts group to teach people psychic abilities, because I wanted them to see art as if it was real, to see if it works mostly, but also to do things like possess artwork and get a degree in theology and astral travel and study things like just studying the Bible or Greek mythology or demonology and write their own books. I was aware because the parents were either divorced or they didn't have parents or their children being confiscated basically, and so on and so on. They weren't legally allowed to marry because the rights of marriage are actually really strict. So it's a group of friends disguising themselves as saints and archangels and sleeping with each other that are also artists. And the way that we live is basically the same as it was in Italy. And the best advice I can possibly give is, if you were born as a child with a body not created out of witchcraft or sent here from a different planet, go everywhere in spirit. And things like magical wands are really good because they can transfer consciousness. And everything science is trying to divulge is just old traditions of witchcraft, and they have all the answers. But really, I had to choose between church and the divine feminine and knowledge. I would choose knowledge because it's really the whole purpose, I believe. And some people do like to go to church and worship gods, usually believing that your partner is that god. However, I just think it's the church is just going to be honest about the books priests really read was the whole purpose.